What is the process for securing funding?
The process is one of a number of assessments that take place. It's a two-stage assessment process, the first of which is known as a continuing healthcare funding checklist. Now, that can be conducted by a number of different people, but ordinarily you would expect it to be either a qualified nurse on the ward if the person is still in hospital, or a member of the discharge team, or if the person's in a nursing home, sometimes it can be the RGN that's registered at the home. Other times it can be conducted in the community by a social worker. Now, the checklist works through 12 domains or areas of need, which looks at the different areas of the individual's health. It covers everything from their behaviour, their cognition, their affect their mental state, their ability to determine risk, etc. Their communication, right through to areas including nutrition, mobility, and even areas such as their needs in relation to what's referred to as altered states of consciousness. So, for example, if somebody is having regular fits or has a history of suffering from strokes or TIAs, mini strokes. So there's 12 domains in total, and the checklist will score each issue that they have on the basis of either an A scoring, a B scoring, or a C scoring. A being the most severe, C being the least. If the individual scores 2 or more A's, or a combination of 1 A and 4 B's, or finally 5 B's, then they're deemed sufficiently serious in terms of their health needs to justify going to a full assessment, and that is the secondary assessment, which is known as a decision support tool. Now, the difference with the decision support tool assessment to the checklist is that rather than it being conducted by one individual, one assessor, it must be undertaken by a multidisciplinary team of clinicians. So what you would, the national framework for continuing healthcare funding is what underpins the whole process and effectively the rules and regulations as to how the process should be conducted and in what manner. Now, the national framework makes it very clear that a representative from the local authority, which is ordinarily a social worker, would be expected to be involved in the multidisciplinary assessment alongside a nurse. So crucially, you have somebody dealing with what they consider to be the health issues, but equally looking at it from a social care perspective as well. Rather than it being a process of scoring on A's, B's and C's, the different domains have a number of scoring titles, if you like, and they range from everything from no needs through low needs, moderate needs, high needs, and in certain domains it goes beyond high to severe needs and even priority needs. It's looking at the same 12 domains, which in order flow from behaviour, cognition, psychological and emotional needs, communication, mobility, nutrition, then looking at continence, skin integrity. The next factor would then be discussing matters in terms of the individual's drug therapies, which also includes any pain problems that they may have, as well as the problems relating to breathing and altered states of consciousness, which, as I mentioned before, is whether they have a history of strokes or, quite literally, in the most extreme form, comas or seizures. The final domain looks at any other needs, which is sort of an overriding issue of what health problems the person has. The multidisciplinary team scores the individual in each of these areas, and then, having conducted that assessment, takes a step back and says, looking at these scorings, does the person have primarily a health need on the basis that there is sufficient complexity, intensity and unpredictability in the nature of the issues that they've looked at. So the problem can be that that's quite a subjective assessment, what a particular individual on the day, particular clinician's understanding and interpretation of what the needs of the individual are. Equally, if any evidence has not been considered or an individual's needs have been incorrectly underscored in any of those domains, it can alter the final determination as to whether their needs are sufficiently complex, intense and unpredictable. And so the person could, in those circumstances, find that they have been marked down and that they're incorrectly denied the funding they ought to be entitled to.